What's up mga kaliga, mga ka-Bull by the Horn? Welcome to another episode of Bull by the Horn, episode 130 mga kaliga. Okay, I'm sure na medyo nagtaka kayo bakit para yatang for the first time meron silang walang isang linggo. Yeah. Last week po, we weren't able to have a show ni Coach Jongoy Chico, unfortunately. Ako po, I was kind of under the weather during that time. We decided na sabi nga natin, wag na muna, no? Medyo health is wealth, ika nga nila. Pero, enough about that. My name is Benny Benitez. Ako po ang inyong Bull by the Horn at ang inyong Pinoy Liga Cup co-founder. Pinoy Liga Cup founder and everything, mga ganyan-ganyan. Ano. And tonight, nakabawi na po ako kahit papano. But si Coach Jong has his mga commitments with the NLEX Road Warriors because they have their own, I think they have an event right now. Kaya si Coach Jong has begged off for today's episode that hopefully we could see him by next week para at least mapag-usapan natin yung upcoming na opening naman ng the PBA para mapag-usapan naman natin his side of the fence. But for the meantime, mga kaibigan, we will be treated to an episode na pag-uusapan natin everything and anything about this. The Big Dance. Naalala niyo po ba yung sinabi namin nung una? A fiesta of basketball. College basketball in particular. Bakit baka nyo? Because after nga, nagrango-rango tayo ng 28 teams, we invited a lot of these teams going into an NCAA March Madness style na basketball tournament. Eto na po, we are now in the middle. Actually, not in the middle, but close to crowning the first ever Big Dance champion. Dahil po tayo, ngayon papasok na into what we call the Final Four. Sino-sino ba maglalaban? LPU Pirates, they go up against the JRU Heavy Bombers, and then the Adamson Soaring Falcons, they go up naman against um, the CSB Blazers dito sa ating uh, what you call this, the Big Dance. Ano? So mga kaibigan, let's talk about the Big Dance, but none other than Mr. Russell Ray po ng ating program director na makakasama natin in about a microsecond. Russ, what's up, man?
How's it going, boss?
Ay, here we are. Maganda naman ng maganda ang reception sa ating The Big Dance. How are you? How has it been with you starting from the time that we did the Big Dance? How was it, man?
Oh, it's been great. I think that it's been for me, ever passionate about basketball and learning about the game here in the Philippines. I've loved the ability to be able to take a deeper dive into some of these teams, to get to know them and their coaches and their players, and to have an exercise mentally every week of trying to determine how these teams compare and stack up with each other, leading up to the Power 40 rankings, and now we're about to hit the zenith of this project, with the Final Four tomorrow. So I mean, can't really ask for anything more than that. We've had some great games. You've had some teams that have made runs, not necessarily miracle runs, but they've just shown a lot of heart and competitive fire, and have made it to advance into the playoffs. And we've had teams. We had a lot of surprises, a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
surprises, a lot of I would say mild upsets. But I think we chose the 28 teams well because most of the games, if not all of them, have had a great storyline, and the fans of the game have the fans of Philippine collegiate basketball have been treated to a great event the past week or so.
Right. And I got here, I nilagay ko nga dito sa ating comment section, Coach Kiko Flores, who is with the with the AIMS. Sila sa Asian Institute of Maritime. Ano nga ba tayo? Blue Hawks team ba tayo, brother? Let me know kung ano nga ba kayo. Nakalimutan ko na yung moniker nyo. But Coach Kiko Flores, thank you very much for being with us. They were one of the invited teams, and they got to play a big program in I think it's AIAC that they faced, or was it?
It's a good question. Someone
Blue Sharks.
Team might have to. Blue Sharks.
Yeah, the Blue Sharks.
That was a competitive game. I mean, Ames. They came ready to compete, and I think that was the beauty of this whole thing, is that being able to match up these teams together. You found, especially the teams that had, in a sense, nothing to lose. They really came prepared to play and gave the higher seeds, quite the challenge. And the result of all that is, Benny, is the fact that the only top seeds that remain in of the Final Four is one from the UAP and one from the NCAA. All the other higher seeds, they succumb to a lower seed. So I mean, it just goes to show that in a winner take all one game setup, the urgency and the stakes of the situation can bring about really good basketball. And I think the fans were treated to that.
Right. And among those number of games, so far we have a grand total of 24 games over the spread over 18. Oh, sorry. Probably around 6 or 7 game days na tayo. What was the most surprising to you among all of the games? What was the most surprising to you? What's the most exciting game to you?
Oh, I think the most exciting game was probably last Wednesday. The Elite Eight game between AIAC and
LPU.
Yes, I think that game. What we ended up having overall, Benny, is the fact that in every game you just saw, you just had, these runs. Each team was able to, take a lead, and then you saw a team respond in kind to even the game up, and then you saw how you're able to see in real time how teams responded to adversity, which players sort of rose to the top. Because there wasn't a lot of games where the outcome was in hand immediately. You really had to watch until the final buzzer to see who won. And it happened in the Elite Eight between Enderun and Adamson. That was a tight game. The LPU game was tight, and the JRU game versus. See, I'm getting old. I can't remember who the opponent was, but that game was also Perpetual, yes. And so, and as an observer of the game, it was just really nice to see different styles compete against each other, right?
That's
You
right.
saw, and then you actually, for me, you're able to see some the growth of teams over time. The JRU team that I saw on Wednesday, for whatever reason, it seemed like a fresh team. It didn't, they played or approached the game differently than any other JRU team I've seen. That's as a tribute to the coaches and a tribute to the players that have, grown and improved. Um, I just love the fact that there was high quality basketball. But I think the game for me, that was sort of most, not sort of, but that was most exciting was the LPU game, the final game of the Elite Eight on Wednesday. That was a fun game
Yeah.
to watch and to be in the gym for. I think if you're talking about surprising games, I think that of all the lower seed over higher seed upsets, I think the Latran game probably was and the San Beta game were probably the more surprising ones, considering the run both teams have had over the summer. They played really well, but sometimes it's not your day, and so it's the wrong time, the wrong place, and the stars don't align, right? And you just end up having a bad game versus a team that's really hungry. And it made it for entertaining basketball. The lower seed won, and there you go.
That's right. And apart from, of course, those lower seeds that we'd love to have a very, very nice rank. Katulad na lang nga nitong kaibigan na natin. We go back to Coach Chico Flores. Sabi niya nga, all yung 13 rookies raw niya had a grand experience and a wonderful experience playing. And yeah, that's actually one of the objectives, of course, of the Big Dance. And who are those little teams or siguro small programs that can, that you feel like with a lot of exposure and a lot of a little more seasoning could break through and probably make that magical upset against a very big program?
Well, that's a good question. One of the things that I can say that I've really been impressed with is the fact that there's great, not this good, but there's great basketball being played, outside of the UAP and the NCAA. Some of these teams play a very exciting brand, a well-disciplined brand of basketball, and it just reflects the amount of talent, both in terms of collegiate athletes and the coaching acumen. There's a lot of programs that have a good mixture of both. Talent that's sort of maybe unnoticed or under recognized, and then coaching stats that really have a beat on how to get the most out of their players. I think for me, the team that probably has impressed me the most in terms of their overall play has been Our Lady of Fatima. I
Okay.
love the way they play. I wouldn't say they're under recognized. They've been performing well in, the Pinoy Liga events, for the past year. So, and they have a very good reputation in terms of, the coaching staff and the players. They have experience playing the NBPL, so I think, they have, they have a very good setup over there. And I know they've lost some players, some key players from earlier, from last season, but they still haven't skipped a beat. They play a very solid style of basketball, a lot of ball movement, player movement. Defensively, they put a lot of ball pressure, on the ball handlers, and they're good at rebounding. You can tell that they're not really. They're a team that moves the ball well, and they move the players well. So, in terms of a team that's probably ready to make the next jump and to be considered consistently one of the top teams, at least in the NCR, I would say Our Lady of Fatima is probably most primed to make that jump.
Right. I agree with you. And there are also yung mga iba't ibang programs, Russ, that we have to take notice. Although they lost, but they lost really, really close games. Let's talk about the San Pablo College Ravens. They went against the Guangming Flying Dragons in a very, very tight contest. That was an overtime game, but you could see that even if this small program with with not so much of ceiling, and they went against a very tough Guangming college that has two FSAs, and yet they competed and they almost won the game. They have very good guards. So props to, of course, to Coach Francis Natividad and the rest, of course, of the of course, San Pablo Ravens, who incidentally became the NCAA South champions. And nung nakachat ko nga si Coach Francis Natividad, he was very thankful. Sabi niya, "Sir, thank you very much because that one game that we played during the big dance prepared us for this game that we had." And ang kanilang nakalaban during that time was also one of the teams that competed in the big dance. Another one that lost, but they lost in a very, very thrilling loss. This is the PCU Dolphins, Dasmariñas.
Yes.
Um, that lost a very tight contest against Kenneth Umba's Enderan Titan. So these are the little programs, or you can't tell little programs talaga, but programs outside of Metro Manila na we now have to take notice. Pwede na natin silang sabihan na bakit hindi na natin tignan itong mga programa na to, no? So props again to all of our production and our staff, and of course the guys that's behind the Pinoy Liga Cup, the big dance. Ito, marami dito sa mga kaibigan natin, kasama natin dito, Russ, Nico Arciaga, oh yan. Melvin Sur Santiago, oh yan, nandyan, of course, Justin Almeida. All of these are people that has been behind the big dance at yung sa ating production, and they are a big part of how the big dance is slowly shaping up. We have a question though coming from JR, and the question is, bakit nga daw wala daw masyadong UAAP that played? We invited the UAAP teams, JR, although kasi nga we'd like to explain that the big dance, this is actually a proof to everyone that this can happen, and this is the first year. We have a lot of improvements to do. What's going to happen is that we will now be better in terms of really plotting it within the year, kasi makikita na natin kung kailan ba very ideal na hindi lumilipad palabas ng bansa yung ibang mga big programs, because we have to really take notice also kung kailan sila lumilipad, kung kailan din sila pumupunta sa mga foreign tournaments nila. And a lot of the teams, the De La Salle team, the NU Bulldogs, the UST Growling Tigers, the UP Fighting Maroons, they all went outside the country, including UE and Ateneo. So it's a learning process, of course, to the people behind the big dance, that as we plan for the 2025th edition, or the second year of the big dance, we will now be better knowing and understanding kung ano na nga ba ang mga ideal for everyone, para makasama lahat. Okay, of course, pasasalamatan din natin, Russell, ang ating mga kaibigan from the ICC Blue Hawks. Bakit kanyo? Dahil sila lang yung nagdadala ng mga drums. Naaalala mo ba yung mga drums doon, Russ? Diba, it's a different feeling when there are drummers.
Yeah.
Kaya yung mga taga-ICC, of course, to Coach OG Gumatay, si Coach Mike Speedy Gonzalez, and of course to Ma'am Chloe of the ICC Blue Hawks. Maraming po salamat for supporting the Pinoy Liga, the big dance, at kayo po ay nagdadala ng mga pampaingay doon, yung mga pampaingay na pampamotivate. And in fact, Russ, I hope that you see it from a fan point of view, but malaki bang factor yung nangyari na nagdala ng malakas na banda itong ICC Blue Hawks when they went up against the Diliman College Blue Dragons? Talagang tight yung contest eh. Pagkatapos biglang it was a 50-50 game until dun sa dulo, and then of course there was that loud support in the end na para yatang that's one of the more exciting games then, that first weekend that we had, kasi
Right.
that was a back-to-back thrilling game, because there was the San Sebastian versus the St. Clair of Caloocan Saints that went via a last second shot, and then of course itong thrilling match up ng ICC Blue Hawks. What do you think about that banda that the ICC drummers gave?
Oh, I think it was great. One of the things that I hope can be more of a standard maybe in collegiate basketball is the opportunity for teams to play home at home series. I love the fact that teams like ICC and Guangming, they really travel well, meaning that the fans really come out wherever they're playing and come out to support them and watch. There's nothing like having a group of people yelling and screaming and supporting every defensive stop, every great shot made. It just makes for a more exciting, a more thrilling game. And I think basketball is really made to be watched in the venue. It's a game that you know it's great to watch on streaming or on TV, on a big TV in a bar somewhere. But to be in the gym, to feel the energy of the fans and the players and the activity and the action on the floor, there's nothing like it. And hopefully, with you know the big dance and maybe similar events, we can reinvigorate the want and the desire for home crowds and the power of the fan to really make an impact on the game through supporting their teams. I think that we've talked about this before, Benny, and you reminisce quite fondly of the days when you used to go to Rizal Memorial and support
Oh
your
yeah,
your San Beta teams, and how it was just such a it might have gone out of hand probably at some points, but the fact that there was so much energy in the gym, you have two rabid fan bases really supporting their team and living and dying on every shot, every turnover, every block. There's something to be said about um, having that experience in the gym while watching a game. And I think if there's any silver lining this year in terms of you know the timing in which we had this tournament, is the fact that it really became a platform for the under recognized teams. This
that's right.
became a way for them to highlight how their brand of basketball, um, just how good they play and just how talented they are. And a lot of these smaller under recognized teams did bring a crowd with them, and when you
That's
have the
right.
drums going, I mean, it just makes the game fun. And I think uh, that's sorely needed now more than ever, is going to a place and having it to be a safe place to really enjoy something. It's a communal basketball at its heart. I think is a communal activity. So as much as we can to highlight that and bring that back into the fan space, I think it's a good thing. So I
That's
thoroughly
right.
enjoyed it. Yeah,
Right. And tama ka, Russ, the small programs, they 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 are the one that needs a shot in the arm, and they are the ones that needs to be uplifted. Marami na rin tayo siya. Of course, the big programs, they have the attention. Of course, they're being broadcasted by the big brands. But at the end of the day, nandiyan talaga ang spirito ng basketball also uh, resides in the countryside, sa probinsya, nandiyan din yan eh. So maganda po ito, nakikita natin ngayon mga kaibigan, what's gonna happen to the big dance, because the commitment namin, dalawa ni Mr. Russell Raypon dito, is that pupunta po kami sa inyong mga lalawigan. Kami po ay manunood. Dahil immediately after the big dance, we will now be continuing the ranking system. Darating na ulit tayo dun sa pagkaano namin, pagtitinginan namin, but this time pupuntahan na namin kayo. Titignan talaga namin kung competitive ba kayo, kung kailangan ba natin kayong isama dito sa ranking system na to, kung ano ba yung pwede natin magawa para matulungan ng Pinoy Liga Cup and the Big Dance ang inyong ah, mga mga programa at ang inyong mga liga. O ngayon punta naman tayo, Russell, dito sa tanong ni Charlie Dominguez. Forecast, who will win tomorrow? Who will be in the finals? This is a good question. Bakit kanyo? Because we're going towards that. Bakit ba? Ito maglalaban tomorrow. It will be the LPU Pirates. They go up against the Jose Rizal University Heavy Bombers, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, on the curtain raiser, not necessarily the curtain raiser, but the first game of the Final Four, it's the Adamson Soaring Falcons. They go up against the St. Benilde Blazers. Two great games, Russell. At ako talaga, I'm so excited to hear your inputs because we need to show now, sino nga ba yung first matchup? Of course, let's talk about the matchup about Adamson Soaring Falcons. They go up against the St. Benilde Blazers. Very tight yung matchup. Of course, ang Adamson Soaring Falcons, they may have the benefit of a foreign student athlete, but stacked ang Benilde Blazers. In fact, stacked na sila from since last year. Ngayon, Ras, sabihin mo sa akin, kanino ka dito? Sino nga ba ang para sa'yo mukhang namumukod-tangi dito sa dalawa na to?
Okay, so I'm going to remove my commissioner hat
Okay.
and put on my analyst hat. And
All right,
I,
man.
like anything, I really believe that when you come up and you're evaluating a matchup, it's really styles make fights, right? So you really have to look at the style of play between CSB and Adamson, and how they counteract each other. When you look at Adamson's performance in their Elite Eight game versus Enderan, and it was a very hotly contested game. There was, they were behind at one point and they came back, and Enderan was able to push a lead again. And by the end of the game, Adamson was able to get enough stops and was able to get the ball to its main scores in order to secure the victory. When you look at CSB in their matchup versus Our Lady of Fatima, they looked from the jump like they were ready to play, and they were able to get in a rhythm both defensively and and offensively relatively quickly. They have more of a, the great thing about Adamson, the ball moves very well with them, and you're having to handle multiple cuts, screens. Can CSB's defense handle that? They definitely have a great, they have a great set of guards and perimeter players that can handle all of that motion. It really, for me, becomes a matter of whether or not Adamson can control the guards of CSB. I think CSB has the advantage possibly in terms of their guards being able to get off the quick starts and get get any shot they want. Obviously, Adamson does have has their fair share of guys who can score, can shoot from the three. So for me, it's the battle of the guards at this point. And like, I would say that maybe CSB has a slight edge. The great thing about these two games, Benny, is like both matchups, all four teams, they can all win this. They can win these next two games. All of them have. It's not like there's a team that maybe came out of nowhere and maybe it's on a hot streak. Both these games, both these teams have had to battle to make it to the Final Four, and all of them have a legit shot in order to make it past this round and into the finals. But I think just in terms of style of play and maybe just the kind of momentum that they've built, maybe CSB has a slight edge. We'll have to see whether or not, because for me, there's also the bigs match up very well. In addition, I don't think there's a real edge with the bigs. Maybe slightly on CSB side. It's hard to say, but I think in this matchup, the guards really do dictate the action. And if CSB's guards can get off to a quick start and maintain that, because Adamson has started off slowly from what I've seen, that could be the difference.
All right. And ako naman, I really understand how this Adamson and CSB matchup will really be determined by the guard play because it's so deep on both sides.
Yeah.
And tama naman, the Adamson Soaring Falcons, they rely a lot on their outside shots. They may not be the biggest of teams, although they would have, a few bigs, Manzano, Balasi, of course, their FSAs. But CSB could match up if they will bring in
Yes.
Liwag, Eusebio, Harke. It's an even
Torres was
matchup.
very good
Yeah,
on Wednesday as well.
that's right.
He got hot and stayed hot the entire game. I think he went on a streak. Maybe I can't remember. It's his first second quarter where he had scored multiple baskets in a row. So I mean,
Ian
he would be a
Torres.
guy. Yeah, he would be a guy I would key on defensively if I were Adamson. I'm not trying to give them any hints or whatever, but that would be something I'd have to watch out for. Is their guards can get going quick, and they can score at all three levels. So we'll have to see. And on the reverse side, Eusebio, and maybe, if I'm not sure if AJ Franzman's playing tomorrow, that could be an intriguing matchup. Those guys play similar positions, and if they're matched up on both ends of the floor, AJ's quite athletic, and he's long and lanky, and Eusebio, he can shoot. He's got the perimeter shot. So that those are things that both coaching staffs have to sort of account for. If AJ's in the lineup and the FSAs are available, that's an added level of defensive strategy and game planning that Daniil will have to address.
That's right. So I am on this matchup really. It's a 50-50, although I would go on a 51-49, tilting that 1% to CSB Blazers.
Yeah.
I think they have the depth, and they have the I think they're hungrier for relevance and for really a title,
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, at this point I think anything that they would put their hands on would be something that they could latch on, leading towards their main tournament, the NCAA, which incidentally will start by September 8th. So both of us feeling natin, there's a chance that it might be, of course, CSB, but it's a very, very tight one between CSB and Adamson. Mga kaibigan,
Yeah.
sino-sino nga ba? Yeah, sino-sino nga ba ang inyong tingin? Ang sabi naman dito sa atin ni JR Russ is that CSB versus ADU game will be a tight match cause the chess match vibe with Coach Nash and Coach Charles. Let's talk about briefly the coaching styles of these two tacticians. What do you see about the style of coaching of these two, and what do you think would spell the difference when it comes to their strategies?
Ooh, I think if outside looking in, I believe that Adamson is probably better built as a defensive team. I think in terms of how they guard, because they have athletes and guys that are long and lanky, and they got beefy guys too that helps you in terms of rebounding. Adamson is probably built more as a defensive team, a team that can get stops, and then on offense, I think Coach Nash and Coach Ryan, their philosophy is really, that, I guess, a hybrid Princeton offense where there's handoffs and guard to guard passes and back screens, and there's this constant ball movement, screening, player movement to get good shots. I mean, my thought has been that they haven't really keyed in or have had a guy that really on a short clock can get any shot he wants. Right? There's not like a go-to, get to the rack score, can get a foul. At least I haven't seen it yet. CSB, on the other hand, their offense is a little bit more set to take advantage of their offensive strengths, right? They have guards that can get the paint. They have wings that can shoot. So they're running horn sets and other things to create advantages, through a ball screen or through dribble handoffs to maneuver players and teams to get defenses chasing. So their highly skilled shooters can shoot. Defensively, they did a great job versus Our Lady of Fatima. Um, it remains to be seen if they can continue to have that strong, solid defensive effort against Adamson. So Coach Charles, I think, is a bit more playing to a modern European style of play. That I'm sure that's a reflection of his time with Coach Raiko, and being Coach Reiko being his mentor, and his experience coaching internationally. So, again, styles make fights, and that includes coaching in the chess match. The great thing about this, Benny, is that both head coaches have great coaching staffs behind them. I mean, guys who have been in the game for a long time, have coached at a very high level, have won championships. Of course, Coach Charles has won championships, Coach Nash. So I think it'll be interesting from a coaching standpoint to see the chess moves happen in real time and to see if they work. Because if it's a pick 'em game, 50-50 shot of either team winning, it really does matter what the adjustments, if adjustments are made in a timely manner. If you let a team get on a run for too long and you wait to make an adjustment, then you're having to dig out of a larger hole. Can a coach see what's happening, see that the momentum is turning, call a timeout or change the strategy so that way they can sort of regain a foothold on the game? So the chess match will be real between those two
Yeah.
coaching staffs on Friday.
All right. Now let's talk about another chess match. This one, the LPU Pirates versus, of course, the JRU Heavy Bombers. Kanino alito, Russell?
Oh man, again, and this is great match. This is a great matchup because both teams are in the NCAA, so they're very familiar with each other. That often leads to games that that really test the mettle of the players and the coaches with regards to strategy, with regards to how to best manipulate the pieces on the chessboard to get an advantage. The one thing I love about LPU is they, and this is from probably the Collegiate Cup and other Pinoy Liga events that I've been able to see them. They also have a very nice free flowing offense in the sense that ball's always moving. There's flare screens, there's DHOs, the ball's moving from wing to wing. There's rarely any real standing by any one player. I think they really adhere to that 0.5 basketball philosophy that Steph Curry's talked about before, where there's quick decisions being made. They make the defense chase the ball and chase players. So that will be interesting to see how JRU has to contend with, has to game plan for that. And on the other hand, JRU, in watching them play on Wednesday, they just set a lot of screens. Those guys are big bodies. I think that they set punishing screens. They're running players through multiple screens, and I don't. They play more of an interior game, meaning it's not. At least for me, I didn't really see them focus a lot of energy on maximizing 3-point shots. Whatever offense they were getting was off of defensive stops. But when they were in a 5-on-5 situation, they were they just ran a methodical offense. And I mean, that's the best word to put it. JRU runs a very methodical offense. They know where the ball is going. They know where the players are going, and they execute it well. So I think that again, methodical versus I wouldn't say frenetic, but there's more of an unpredictability with LPU's offense. We'll see which team is able to maximize that style, to great effect in order to win the game. LPU plays great defense, as does JRU. JRU plays a physical brand of defense. Again, a pick 'em game, but I guess if you ask me, maybe the edge is in the shooting and the shot making, and maybe that goes to LPU. I mean, that would be my thought, but I wouldn't put it past Coach Louis and his staff and his team. You've seen that they can lock up guys, and they can get defensive stops. So, I mean, we saw it last Wednesday. But I guess a slight edge in a pick'em game probably would go to the shooting of LPU. I mean, I think they just have more shooters. Who is that? Barba. Oh, he's a matchup. I mean, that guy can.
Ato Barba.
He's a solid player. Whenever I talk to teams and coaches, I always tell them your job in the game is to create matchup problems for the opposing team. When I'm preparing for you, I have to prepare for one or two players or a scheme and so like that is what I'm going to focus on. That's your goal as an opposing team. I want you to have to really game plan for one or two guys on my team. And if you're LPU, you're solid because you have a guy in Barba that Coach Louis and JRU are going to have to game plan for. You're going to have to stop him from scoring. And then they have that post guy, number 13, maybe is that his name? Um, uh,
Gael Montaño.
oh man, that guy is smooth on the block. Another guy you have to guard. So I mean, for me, those if you have an edge when you have one or two guys that demand the defense's attention, that always puts you in a good spot because if you're able to play that well, they draw attention and maybe there's an open guy for a cut on the weak side, or maybe something happens where there's a miscommunication, and it's easier to get a good shot when the defense has to key on one or two guys. So for me, probably long-winded, but the slight edge to LPU at this point, just because they have legitimate shot makers.
That's right. Ayun din ako. Exactly how where I would place my opinion or my position with this, because there's gonna be like the classic case of what happened in that LPU versus EAC game. They ran a play for Gael Montaño, and they really looked at the matchup and the problems that he brings to the opposing teams, because he's
Yeah.
long, he's skilled, and he could run the post, and he could do face up, and he's really at this point probably the most gifted player. I don't want to say in the big dance, but probably in his team, or probably in this matchup, he would probably be the gifted in terms athletically or physically,
Yeah.
because of his size and his length. So Gael Montaño, katulad nga nung ginawang content ng ating mga kaibigan sa social media, sabi nagpaka-Kobe daw siya eh, because he did a Kobe there. He was guarded well,
Yeah.
but he
That's right.
was his post moves, the bump shows maturity, and of course the
Yes.
finish. So that's a big problem, right?
Oh, for me, like I tend to think about players that can always stay under control and get a shot that they want, no matter how the defense plays them. They're able to stay poised and wait for the opportunity in order to get to the spot they want to get to on the floor and get a shot off. And for me, Montano and Barba, like they're able to do that. I mean, they are very controlled. The defense can't speed them up, and when they catch, like they'll be patient. And what happens is like they get the ball into the post to Montano, and then they sort of clear aside. So it's like it's basically an isolation play. And now the entire defense is keyed in on him, and the one-on-one matchup. Plus, there's four guys on help. Imagine if like they start to double or something like that, and now that guy's probably skilled enough to find an open shooter. And if it's Barber on the weak side, he can knock down the three, or he can attack the closeout and drive. So I mean, it's like, yeah, for me, that's always a danger. Always a danger to have guys like that on the floor, because if I have to key on them too much in order to stop what they're doing, someone else is going to get open, and they have a more than 50% shot chance of making the shot if it's uncontested, right? Because they're so focused on the main guys.
All right. And you know what, Russ, this is actually our opportunity to invite them, because of this, guys. It's our final four for the big dance. Again, it's Adamson Soaring Falcons. They go up against the CSB Blazers, and then 4 o'clock, it's going to be the LPU Pirates. They go up against the Jose Rizal University Bombers. Mga kaibigan, this is going to be an exciting day for Philippine collegiate basketball, because the first ever big dance, it's your Pinoy version of the USNCAA March Madness. We did it. We are now 3 games to go, and we're going to be crowning the first ever big dance champion. They will be receiving, and eventually makikita rin to ng buong publiko, a perpetual trophy that was commissioned to artist Cameron Castrillo. So that the champion po ng the big dance, they will bring with them sa kanilang eskwelahan a piece of art, a work of art that's going to be passed around by the different champions of the league, and whoever wins the championship 3 times in a row, they get to keep the perpetual trophy. That's how it's going to be. It's going
Pretty
to be a
impressive.
tradition. It's going to be a tradition. So magandang mga magandang tignan to mga kaibigan. So Russ, invite them for tomorrow.
Oh, if you have a free moment, if you're not doing anything Friday afternoon, I encourage you all to come out and spend an afternoon with us at Amaranto Sports Center in Quezon City. You're going to be treated to 2 great games. The atmosphere is going to be great. You have a great seat on the second level to look down on the action. I don't know if you're a basketball fan, if you love collegiate basketball in the Philippines, and you had nothing to do on a Friday afternoon, how could you not be there? So I would just encourage everybody to show up. Whether or not you're a fan of the teams, if you love the game, I promise you the games are going to be great. The great thing about a one and done tournament again is there's urgency, there's stakes, and people will be playing with pride and something to prove. And that's always when you get the best basketball, is when people are competing. And I think, people may think this is like a modest start, a humble start to this hopefully yearly tradition. But the games we've seen have proven that these teams really come to play. It's not like this is if we win, we win. If we don't, we don't. Teams are invested because they know that they're playing against the best teams in the Philippines. And hopefully next year we expand more to, we had University of Cebu play in the turn, and hopefully we get more teams from Visayas, Mindanao. And I know that you and I are committed to really going to these places and visiting the teams and visiting the leagues, and having that information inform the Power 40 rankings, so we can get a clear picture, hopefully a comprehensive picture of collegiate basketball throughout the islands. And I think that's something that all Filipinos, especially people who love the game, they can get behind that. Let's really come up with an opportunity for the best teams to play each other, winner take all, one game and out, to see in that time and place who's playing the best basketball, who has bragging rights. Is it a team from the UAP? Is it a team from NASCU? Is it a team from the Sasafi? The team from the NCAA South. There's great basketball being played everywhere. I think the Big Dance can be a platform and a way to highlight and spotlight great basketball being played all over the nation. And for me, I'm excited for that. If you want to be part of the tradition and see it at its infancy, come tomorrow. Come tomorrow and watch. I promise you the games will be good.
Oh yeah, we'll be there. We'll make sure that the games will be at the highest level, and of course, standards are high, and we'll make sure that Russell and I. So mga kaibigan, yan po, it's our special. Ang special po namin for the Big Dance. Of course, I am with Commissioner Russell Raypon. Hopefully, by next week, we could have Coach Chong naman. Sana mapag-usapan din natin. Of course, the result of the Big Dance and some PBA discussion. Siyempre, just to cover at least yung side naman ng ating kasama ni Coach Chong. So, para po kay Russell Raypon, si Kume na English speaking. Ayan. Ako po si Benny Benitez, na nagsasabi po sa inyo na maraming pong salamat sa inyo. Hanggang sa muli, ingat po tayong lahat. At teka lang, bago po tayo ilalapit ko lang doon sa aking OBB para isahan na lang. Magandang gabi po, ingat po kayo.